Hello and welcome, clinicians in private practice. This is Jo. Today I have the fabulous John Edwards with me. John and I met last year in San Francisco. I must admit, I've been a bit of a stalker of John's for quite some time. I find what he has to say quite profound and incredibly useful and thought-provoking. So before John agreed to be in my room, I was a bit of a John fan. So today, this video or this interview is a part of the series that I've been running for the last couple of months, talking into the mindset for success. So John's going to help us understand self-sabotage today. And I know everybody's attention just got pricked up because we're like, oh yeah, we know about that elephant in the room. But before we get into the meaty stuff, John, who are you and who do you serve?
So I am, as Jo says, so I'm John Edwards. I have a practice in Oakland, California, in a section called Pill Hill. I'm sure you can imagine why it's called Pill Hill.
Okay, I did not know that.
There's a bunch of hospitals and doctors' offices and dentist offices in the area, so hence it's referred to as Pill Hill. Mm-hmm. I actually call it Lower Pill Hill. It's the bottom of the hill versus the top of the hill.
Okay, so, this is the generic brand of the pill.
Yes, it's generic. You know, we're in America.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into that discussion.
The brand name might be a bit more expensive. And so in my practice, I serve folks with anxiety and depression, mm-hmm. and folks with addiction. And then I have another specialty of eating disorders, and I am a certified Gottman Method couples therapist. And so I typically see folks, because here in Oakland, and also perhaps in the US, the number of Black or people of color therapists are perhaps not as much as we would like. Mm-hmm. And so I get a lot of people that are searching for a person of color. Mm-hmm. My couples practice, it's usually kind of funny in a way when I get a call, because I usually get a call from a wife or a girlfriend or a fiance, female, and they usually say something to the effect of, my husband or my fiance or my boyfriend says, he'll only go to couples counseling if I can find a Black, male, well-qualified couples therapist. They search because I have good SEO, and then they find me, and then people have to come to counseling because they can't really back out. They're like, oh, okay. So they set up sort of this dynamic that they're thinking is probably going to be impossible.
Yeah.
Really difficult.
Yeah.
And then folks find me, and so that's one of the actual nice perks, I think, of being able to meet a criteria that people think is virtually next to impossible to find.
I think that's fantastic. There'd be plenty of us at the moment feeling a little uncomfortable, but because you're the man of color talking about it, it kind of feels okay. but being able to serve this part of the population that probably feels fairly misunderstood, or like you're just not going to understand the intricacies or the nuances of what it's like for me. And yet here you are, you're well qualified, you're a man, you've got appointments whenever they want them, and you happen to be a person of color. It's like, yeah, cool.
I've had a couple of guys say, well, I really didn't think she was going to find anybody.
I think that's really funny too. I wonder if there's a lesson in there for all of us. What is the secret sauce that we bring that our clients are using to avoid coming to therapy?
Yes, exactly. And in terms of self-sabotage, we can think. So, I mean, it's the way of kind of where America is, right? So on one hand, we can think of, I can think of myself, and frankly, I do sometimes, as this Black man that no one will come see.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of a sabotaging way, to view it. But I can, and I do sometimes, but I can think of myself as that way, versus, what people are actually doing, which is trying to find this very specific thing that, their partner or their husband doesn't think exists. And I have same-sex couples do the same thing too. Interrace lesbian couples, they'd be like, I'm only going to go see a black person. It's got to be well qualified. And then, and then they find me. So,
but I think that brings up a really important point, because it's so self-sabotage. We think it's this mystical thing that's kind of in the recesses of our mind, and we need a bolt of lightning to bring it to, maybe that's just me, but I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people who have gone, I'm too young. No one's going to come and talk to me because I'm too young. And then I'm too old. Nobody's going to want to come and work with me because I'm too old. I don't have experience in this specific thing. I don't know how to speak that specific language. I've only been in Australia. I've only been living in Australia for 7 years. I've only been living in America for 4 years. Like, we come up with so many excuses.
Yes. And my foray into eating disorders is very new. And when I say very new, there are people that have been doing eating disorders for 15 years and 20 years and stuff like that. And I said, this is something that I want to do. And how did I make it happen? Well, I did some research, and I found the University of California Berkeley Extension has a whole certification program. So I just took it. Right, I just read it. I started taking the classes. It took about 1.5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I did it. I knew someone when I worked inpatient in a psych hospital who had a lot of experience in eating disorders. And so I hired her for supervision / consultation. And I started seeing my clients. Now, here's an interesting thing about self-sabotage, and I think sometimes that we can get really caught up. So my practice is, about 80% insurance based in the U.S. and then about 20% private pay. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows, insurances pay less than, private pay, yada, 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 that kind of stuff. And so I was thinking, well, how can I get supervision in accordance to how much I'm making, right? And so people will necessarily think, well, I can only find a private practitioner who perhaps is costing more than sort of what you're getting reimbursed for from seeing a client. So it's sort of, it's this way in which you're like, well, for just random figures, right? So if the supervisor costs $150 and, per session, and you're getting paid, let's say $60 per session from the insurance company, then you got to do like 3 sessions to get 1 hour of supervision. So it can become mathematically challenging and financially challenging. And so you can get into a sort of a sabotage mode. Well, this is never going to work. Mm-hmm. How am I going to do this? I'm going to end up being in the hole, blah, 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 blah.
I lose my house. No one will love me. I can't eat. And I've got all this debt.
Exactly. Right. And so what I figured out, because for me, one of the sort of the niche that I wanted to serve were LGBT folks that had eating disorders, and young LGBT folk that had eating disorders, especially the ones that are in college, because I am on the University of California Berkeley student referral list. And so they have insurance and stuff like that. And so I actually figured out, well, hey, here's this person that I know, that I worked with, that's fairly good. And I just called her up and I was like, hey, so this is what I'm trying to do. This is sort of how much I think I can afford for supervision. What do you think? And she was like, oh, hey, sure, no problem. I'd love to help you out. And we agreed on a price that was, that I thought was what I could actually afford and what she thought was fair. And then we started doing it. Wow. So it doesn't always necessarily need to be, complicated, is my point.
And I think one of the things I appreciate about you, and I've learned this, and you've just given us an example, is you've got this amazing capacity to go, there's always a way. So I want to learn about eating disorders. So now you're a man of color, servicing this population, and now we're adding eating disorders to your skill set. So you're kind of going, it's almost like you're going, where else would people think I wouldn't turn up? That these people aren't getting the services they need.
Yes.
And so instead of going, I can't do that, I can't afford that, it's like, there's got to be a way. And
Yes.
you just went and asked a question, would you like to help me?
Yes, and
And she said yes.
Yes, and I say to people all the time, some people may, say this is probably perhaps not the best idea, but I try to, sometimes my client.
We've got a problem with your microphone. Is something?
Sorry.
You're all right.
Is that better?
Much better.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. So I say to people, everybody has their life, and they can choose to do what they want to do with their life. And if they don't want to charge, or they've decided they don't want to charge $100, they only want to charge, they charge $150, that is okay. That is their life to do, and you don't have to be upset at them. But you can actually look to find someone that can connect with you. It's there. You gotta put a little bit of work into it, and you really got to watch the mindset.
Yeah.
You gotta watch the mindset. Now, if this person didn't work out, I probably would have figured out something else. I probably would have figured out, well, okay, let me, so maybe I have to get an extra client a week to sort of make this work. Right? And so, I put one client in, one client extra a week to get this goal towards the end. Right? And, most clients aren't coming in for, 12 years. It's not like if you're going to be seeing this client for 12 years, right? So it's not, it's a commitment until they're, either people feel that they're better, or, they stop or whatever. So there's a way to do it. And if you're thinking about how you're actually helping yourself, it actually also makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just going to plug my computer in, because obviously that was something I needed to do before now. We might just go over this way. Well, my apologies. Please continue.
Yeah. So it's really sort of just paying attention to that mindset in terms of, when I get this done, will I be saying, gee, I'm so miserable that I actually saw that extra client a week so that I could pay for my supervision and consultation. And now that I have this expertise, boy, is that a problem now that I have this expertise. Right? We're not going to be saying that. We're going to be like, oh, it may have been difficult. It may have been a little bit hard, but wow, now I have this expertise, and I can, see the kinds of clients that I want to see and enjoy seeing and enjoy serving. And, you pretty much forget whatever the pain was from before. That
is so true. What a great perspective, because we forget that it's for this period of time, and our life is this big and this long, and we forget that awful experience that we may have had with someone writing a bad review, or telling us they don't want to work with us anymore, or making an error, or saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. That stuff's like a moment in time, and yes, it feels awkward and icky, and we'll probably ruminate on it for a little while, but it doesn't last forever. It just doesn't.
And you get up, you brush yourself off, you look at your makeup, and then you move forward. It's not necessarily easy, but that's kind of the idea. To me, that's where you really want to try to head, right? If you experience something and it's terrible, you want to acknowledge it. But as I often say to my clients, we don't want to set up house.
Good.
And build a small town, like we don't want to set up house, then build a neighborhood, then build a small town, and then you have a city, and then next thing you have an entire country around this very negative experience.
Very much so, very much so. So growing in self-awareness, because you're an incredibly self-aware gentleman, and how did the Success Mindset Masterclass last year, because you're, as far as I was concerned, you're a really successful guy. So for you to come along to this event, it was like, wow, I am kind of honored by this. So what was it that made you go, I want to be in that room with those people?
Well, because you're smart.
Oh, do thanks.
Who doesn't want to hang out with smart people?
Mm.
I know I do.
Mm.
I always want to hang out with smart people. But, you know, when I think back on it, I thought, this looks really interesting. There are interesting people that are going to be there.
Yeah.
And Joe is leading this. It's in my neighborhood. What reason would I have for not going? I don't know if I have a reason for not going. Right? Wow. I could have all sorts of reasons for going, but I don't know if I have a good reason for not going. And so that's kind of how I made that particular decision. And as you probably recall, it was kind of last minute. I you know, like 3 days before, I'm like, oh my God, can I come? Please let me in.
Yeah, that was really interesting, as I was in an airplane crossing that really big ocean, which actually I didn't have my phone on in the plane, people, don't worry. No, it was fine. It was fun. I landed in San Francisco and worked out how to make the internet work. And yeah, it was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And then I had to wait for my practice manager to wake up and make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so my thinking was, you know, sort of, what can I learn? Mm-hmm. What can I relearn? Mm-hmm. Sort of, what can I solidify? Because sometimes it's not always about just learning new information. Sometimes it's really about getting that reinforcement about what you're doing. And getting that reinforcement, you know, from a smart person. You go, hey, that makes sense. And you go, oh, okay, all right. Because, you know, we all have this imposter syndrome. And I sort of oftentimes, at least in my brain and sometimes in my posts, I liken sort of having a private practice to having an opera career. And because, you know, you can audition, things don't go as well, you know, somebody doesn't like you, you get a bad review, you know, there are these things that happen to you, but you know, the show must still go on. And there is nothing greater. I watch sometimes on YouTube. This is probably in the 1980s. At the time, the soprano was Kathleen Battle with the conductor James Levine, and they were doing a rehearsal for her doing Zerbinetta in Ariadne of Naxos, which is a really difficult.
Yeah.
And really, like it. You know, it's really difficult and it's really high. So, you know, she has to sing, you know, E's above high C, which is really high. And so here in this rehearsal, she kind of starts off and she's completely out of tune, like completely out of tune. And she goes, okay, sorry. And she gathers herself and then they start over and she does the run and it's amazing, right? And then he stops and he goes, that was amazing, beautiful, I love it, right? That's fantastic. Now, if you go to a mastermind class and somebody says to you, hey, you got it. That's great. That's amazing. You've made that shift. Look at that. Who goes away going, you know, that's just a waste of time. You know, she told me I was good, but, you know, why bother with that, right? Who does that, right? Nobody really does that. And now when you get that support, you're like, okay, right? Or you, hey, this is what I do. And somebody says, that's great. Have you ever thought about adding this? And you go, well, no, but sounds like a fantastic idea. And so now here you have, you're getting all of this wonderful support from people who really, even you just meet them, but there's this transformation that happens, which doesn't happen all the time, but you have this transformation that happens where people are like genuinely interested in your success. Right? People genuinely want to see you succeed, and and they want to be. For me, I'm always like, well, just remember me when you're on Oprah.
Yeah.
that's kind of what I think,
Yes.
right? But it's because I'm not sure there are words to describe it. This where in the days we were together and we were just talking and really listening to each other and really honing in on what's helpful and sort of helping to support each other and sort of breaking down that isolation. I think that's amazing. I think it's an amazing thing to experience.
Oh, thank you. And that, well, you have just helped me articulate the experience that I wanted to bring and the experience that I tried to build. So thank you. And then we all got to enjoy some Vegemite, which was a whole new busting out of your discomfort, levels of comfort. But I think you're right that there was something incredibly, or there is something incredibly powerful about that room where that space has been created for new ways of thinking. Because I think we get isolated and we're thinking, and we don't realize that our brain likes easy, because we're busy and we're trying to look after ourselves and we're trying to look after the people we serve. So our brains go with the neural pathways that have already been formed, like the water going down the rocks. So getting into a room where it's okay to express an opinion and have someone go, hadn't thought about it like that before, and go, oh, wow, I'm allowed to have an opinion and it's an okay place to have an opinion. And even if you go, wow, that was a really dumb thing, I wish I hadn't have said that, to have someone else in the room go, yeah, I remember when I did that and when I said this. So I found it is incredibly affirming and at times quite emotionally intense, but not in a weird way. Sort of,
right. Yes.
We moved through that intensity quite well.
Yes. Yeah. And I think also, one of the things that I think happens, and I know I experienced this in terms of self-sabotage, is that as therapists, I know, so like when I first started my practice, so I was, very psychoanalytically trained because that's what happens in New York City. It just happens.
Okay.
It's just the way
you do.
It's like, they've got like 40 psychoanalytic institutes of the various mindsets there. There are a lot of them.
That is a lot.
It's a lot.
I feel like such the country bumpkin right now. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. And so when I first started, the way I viewed my practice was really from an analytical lens, which is not helpful. It is not helpful. Because, for example, self-sabotage, one of the things that I'm sure you've noticed on the forums is, collecting fees. Right?
Yes, I
collect my payment, collect my late fee, whatever it is, it's this thing about collecting fees. And I realized for myself that my mindset around it was this idea that I somehow had to work through the money issue with the client to collect my fee, and I need to spend 3 sessions doing it. So now this client now owes me 3 sessions, and right. And the moment I shifted from, I'm actually running a business, not running a clinical entity. I'm running a business that provides clinical services. And so if you see me, you got to pay me.
Yep.
And I really haven't had any issues since I came to that conclusion. Like I really shifted out. So the clinical issues is for when the client is in front of me or when I'm working on a report or a letter or something.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Everything else is really about how do I get my business in front of people that need it, and how do I keep my business in a business mode.
So anyone watching and listening, that's gold. That is the clip of the day. I need to work out how to snip that and make that the thing that we watch over and over again. So do you want to go through it again? How did you separate the two?
Well, I shifted from looking at my business as this clinical entity in which I had to clinically work through issues. Doesn't mean we don't have issues that affect how we practice, but if we view it as this is my business that provides clinical services, it makes a world of difference.
Absolutely.
Because it's like now I know that if I have provided you with a service, that there will be compensation, right? That's because that's how it works. If we go to the coffee shop, they give us coffee, they get compensated, right? If we go to a massage therapist, they give us a massage, they get compensated, whatever it is. So we provide a service. And when we provide that service, we get compensated. And if we look at it at that, because that's how businesses run. You provide a service, you get compensated. The other stuff about, the clinical issues and what are my issues around money and that kind of stuff. Hey, if you want to spend 5 sessions with your client not paying you, okay. I'm just saying it's probably not a good idea. And that you probably just want to say, hey, I'm providing you the service, you need to pay me. And then you can talk about, well, what is it like paying me? Or what is it like not wanting to pay me? But you still got to pay me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's the business end of it. And then you can talk about what that's like rather than, trying to figure out the business end in a clinical way. I just don't think it's helpful. I think a lot of folks really struggle, and I think it's a thread for self-sabotage because we think from my experience, I know that I really thought that if I was not working through these sort of financial issues and appointment issues, that I was being a bad therapist.
Wow, thank you.
Right? I was being a bad therapist if I was not sort of trying to figure out working with the client to figure out why they're not paying me and all of this kind of, these kinds of issues, that I was being a bad therapist. And then I get into, how much more training do I need to go get? And, which training do I need to get? And, now I'm off track. Now I'm completely off track in terms of what the issue is. And then self-sabotage kicks in, right? Well, you're really not good enough for this.
Absolutely.
Right? You don't really know what you're doing, because if you did, this would happen. And then before you know it, you're like, all right, let me not write my blog posts. Let me not do anything. Let me not advertise, because I'm not good enough. And, client calls me and they say, oh, I can only come on Saturday mornings at 8:00. And I go, okay, well, fine, then I'll do Saturday mornings at 8:00, even though I really want to sleep in and I don't work on Saturdays. I mean, for me, I work on Saturdays, but, that's a choice that I made. But pretty soon you're all over the place.
And you're compromising yourself
Yes.
at every step of the way. Like you said, it's just this spiraling out of control. And the other thing that reflected is you've actually turned your client's therapy into an issue about yourself.
Right.
So
exactly.
it stopped being about the client owning their process. It's like, we've got to get this money stuff sorted because you've come to me with a specific issue and I want to help you work through that issue. But to do that, there needs to be an exchange. So you want my knowledge, skills, and expertise, and you're going to give me money to exchange that.
Yes. There is no other profession that I know of where people go in and they're like, I don't really want to pay you. And the person goes, okay, let's talk about it. Right? Can you imagine going to Virgin Australia and saying, hey, I want to buy a ticket to San Francisco?
Yeah. I don't want to pay $2,000 plus all of the extra taxes.
Exactly.
I only want to give you $500. Yeah.
Right. They're like, it's $2,000. And you say, can we talk about that? I really only want to pay $500. No. Even if you go to, a roadside person that's selling, we have these fruit stands in California, food trucks. You can't go and be like, well, I don't, can we negotiate kind of, I really want this vegan sandwich, but, we go and we get, it's $5 for the vegan sandwich, and you go, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to pay $5 for the vegan sandwich, then you go somewhere else, right?
Yes, exactly. That's such a good analogy and helpful way to help us understand what we're actually doing when we think we're being protective and we think we're being kind and we think we're being thoughtful and therapeutic, when actually what we're being is disruptive to the process, lacking integrity for ourselves, and basically setting our clients up with this behavior that says, I'm actually not worth it. So you
Yeah.
can come when you want to come or not come when you want to come. And if you don't call me and cancel, well, I'm obviously not going to do anything about it because money's obviously not an issue. So it just sets up all of these behaviors and expectations that we're like, how did that happen?
And it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter whether your session fee is $65 or $175. Like, it really doesn't matter. If you decided your session fee is $65 and you can't collect that $65, it is no different than if somebody decided that their session fee is $175 and they can't collect that $175.
You've got to learn to do it, and you've got to learn to do it at every stage. And once you've done it once, you can repeat that pattern of behavior.
Yes.
So for some people, they need to start at the 65 and they go, I've gotten used to that. So then we can encourage them to step up to maybe 75. I can do that. And pretty soon they're sending me emails going, wow, someone just paid me $175 and it was amazing and it was easy. Like, yeah. Doesn't happen in an instant. None of that stuff happens in an instant.
It doesn't. And you got to watch the mindset, right? You got to watch the language that's coming in, that's saying, whatever it is, and you really shouldn't, and you can't, and who do you think you are? And all of those things that creep in.
I'm sorry, you're making me feel very uncomfortable right now because it's like you're in my head.
Are you sure? This is what happens to me too.
It doesn't go away.
My practice is mostly insurance based, and I have, which people don't really believe, but I have said to them, I have actually, whatever the average insurance fee is, I don't get that. I get more than that.
Yeah.
Because I said to the insurance guy, hey, this is what we got to do. If you want me to see your people, this is what we got to do.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. And people are like, really? I'm like, yes, it works. It may not work all the time, but it works. And for the ones that kind of balk, I go, okay, thank you very much. It was a pleasure doing business with you. We're not going to do business anymore.
Nope.
And the first time I did that, I was really nervous because I thought, but I have a couple of clients who are they going to find if they don't have me? I'm the only Black therapist, yada, yada, yada. And, stuff creeps in and self-sabotage, right? So now I'm thinking, well, I should stay with these folks because they can't find another Black therapist and continue to accept a rate from an insurance company that I'm finding unacceptable, right? And then I decided, you know what? If they can't find another Black therapist, may sound harsh, but that's really not my problem.
It's not harsh. It's the truth. And I've built my practice the same way. So we have service level agreements with insurance companies, very different insurance system to yours. So it's like apples versus oranges. But I've had people that have come to us going, most of the other providers on our panel only charge $160 an hour. Would you be prepared to do that? No. We're a minimum of $220, and we've been that for 8 years. Not going to reduce the price just for you. So thank you. You've obviously got other providers that you're happy to work with.
Yes.
Being able to say that is so empowering.
Well, I actually, one of the things which I did ask the client permission to share this. Okay. I said, hey, this is like a gem. Can I share this with folks? And the client said yes. So if you know the client, well, nobody will probably know the client anyway. The client said to me, because it's a really smart client, said to me that one of the things that we have to understand when we're doing business with others, whether we're, contracting with an insurance company or contracting with a group practice or whatever it is, that by default, we are going to be paid less than what the service is worth by default. And so we have to understand that and then decide, how much do we think we need to get comfortably? And that's different for different people. Yeah. But it really, that really helped me to go, okay, so this is how much I think I'm going to agree to, and this is what is acceptable. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. but we tend to sort of, again, self-sabotaging, we tend to want to argue with the system. We want to argue with it. Well, no, it should be this way and it should be that. Look, this is the way the system is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We just ain't going to change that.
Yes, and we can decide, look, if I want to do X, Y. So I tell people if they're, especially here in the US, if they're struggling with getting their practice going or whatnot, you don't have to get in every single insurance panel. No, man. Pick one or two.
And do a really good job and let them know you've done a good job. So they send you more people.
One or two, and after 6 months, ask for a raise.
Yes.
Right? And then in the meantime, so you don't have this, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't get anything done. Oh my God, I'm going to see only insurance clients, all of this kind of, And so in essence, what you're doing is you're actually not really building your business. You're spending a lot of time feeling resentful. Feeling resentful at a system that doesn't really care anything about you.
Or it's not thinking about you at all.
Right, exactly. They're not, the insurance companies are going, look at that poor thing. No, they're doing their thing, right? So you got to figure out how can you manage these very complicated systems, and at the same time figuring out what kind of business you would like to have. Right? I mean, for me, one of the things, and which is perfectly fine for me right now, I'm not saying it's necessarily going to be the same thing, in 5 years or whatnot, but for me right now, it's like, you know what? I really want the experience of working with young gay folk who have eating disorders, right? And they're in college, and I have that experience, and I figured, well, in order for me to do that, a lot of folks have they're going to be coming with insurance, and I accept that. And that's okay. But I asked for an increase and I got it. And interestingly enough, one of the insurances just sent me a notification saying we're increasing our rates. And I go, so, it's like we're increasing the rates. And then I look at the rates and they're still under what I self-negotiated. Right?
You're not the only therapist who's told me that they've negotiated with these insurance companies, by the way. So I'm really, really grateful that you've brought that up, because I know that it's a unique thing to do, but I agree. It's
possible, but how do you, again, if we're going back to self-sabotage, right? How are you managing this situation where you want to get clients, you want to serve your niche? If your niche uses insurance, and if that's the primary way a lot of people do, then you may want to consider it. And you may want to consider, well, I'm only going to see, 6 clients or whatever it is, right? And rather than sort of, wringing your hands about how terrible it is, and then basically not doing anything, and you have 12 slots free in your practice for 9 months, and, now you have to go take out a loan, that's to me, that's sort of self-sabotaging as well.
Absolutely. Deciding that you've got this niche, and part of understanding this niche is you have to understand their mindset around money, and what, like you said, you need to know that they're going to pay. So these students are going to come attached to insurance. So you're not going to change that.
Exactly.
It's not like you're going to go, I am only going to take children aged 17 and 3 months and 17 and 9 months who fit this specific criteria, who go to boarding school. Like, wow.
Yes.
That might be niching a little bit too specifically.
Right. And if you do that, then you have to be prepared to go find those people.
That's exactly right.
Right?
Because probably need to know something about boarding school.
Exactly, right? And so you got to figure out how to get that. You can't just be like, oh, this is what I want to do, and then not do anything. And I think part of the big challenge is this idea that, if they build it, if you just build it, they will come. And I think, yes, you have to have somewhere for people to come to. Yes. But people have to know that it's been built.
Please tell people you exist. Yes. People aren't going to, like, word of mouth referrals for any sort of health service is rare. It is really, really rare that someone walks out of a hip replacement going, that was the best experience of my life. If you ever need your hip replaced, you need to go see my surgeon. Like, people don't walk out of any therapeutic intervention because, number one, they usually don't want people to know they've been.
Right.
And number two, it makes them so vulnerable and so uncomfortable. And, you know, regardless of how good we are, some of that stuff just doesn't get worked through, and it doesn't have to get worked through. So if we're constantly waiting for our good work to sell itself, wow, we're shortchanging. So shortchanging.
I have a little caveat to that, which is if you see your ideal client, they will probably talk about you.
Good point.
You still have to do work.
You do.
Right? But if you're seeing your ideal client, they'll probably, you know, they're not going to be broadcasting it, but people will be like, oh, you've changed. What's going on? Oh, it's fabulous therapist. Fabulous therapist. Right? And they go, really? Who's that? And they mention your name and they go, okay. I've had a number of people who said, well, this friend, my brother's sister-in-law who works at this place told me about you.
Right.
You go, oh, okay. Right? Because that is, you know, that was my ideal client, but you still have to make it happen because, you know, the number of those kinds of things, right? So the number of people that come to me because, you know, their brother, sister-in-law worked at the place that told them about me, is, you know, it's not that many, but it does happen. And you're absolutely right. You know, you gotta let people know that you're out there.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a single page website.
Even if it's a LinkedIn profile that's done well.
Yeah. I cannot tell you the number of people that I have seen who have said, yes, so my insurance sent me, you know, a list of 45 people. And you know, so that I go on Google and I type in, you know, therapists that take Anthem, and you pop up. You have a website? So I go, okay, looks good to me. Yeah. And, you know, nobody else has a website. They go, so, you know, I look at it and be like, oh, he's got a website. He must know what he's doing. And, you know, some of them read a little further and they go, oh, that's interesting. Yes, definitely. I mean, I just had a client because I'm getting ready to be out for a little while. Yep. And I had a client that called and I said, you know, unfortunately, I'm going to be out, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be a little bit of time. And the client was disappointed and said, okay, well, you know, I'll try to find someone else. And then the client called me back and left a message going, you know what, I'm just going to wait. Wow. I'm just going to wait until you get back, if that's okay with you, because I read your website. I think like you're the person for me, and I really don't want to go with anybody else. And the client said, you know, you called me back and you spent a little time talking to me. I didn't spend that much time. It was probably 10 minutes. It was probably 10 minutes. Yeah, but right? It's not like if I spent 45 minutes, like, you know, doing a whole, what I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, what's going on? Yeah, sure. You know, 10 minutes. What's happening? You know, how you, it was like that. Right? And now I have a client. In fact, my entire schedule, as I think about it now, I don't know what my schedule is going to be when I come back, but I think it's full. I think it's full because I'm thinking, I think it's full. Wow. I've had to change my voicemail to say I'm not accepting any referrals. And I do that because I'm just not going to, you know, I'm not going to have time to like be calling people back, you know, Yeah. But this is, you know, because I have a website and it, you know, it's okay. I don't think it's fantastic. It's okay, but another way people self-sabotage is that, oh, it has to be perfect. It has to be the best website, you know, next to Amazon. You know, it's got to be like that great, or else I'm, you know, and it doesn't need to be. And it doesn't need to be static. If you start out with one page and you do a page a month, right? By January of 2018, you'll have 7 pages, right? And so, right? So it doesn't, you know, you just gotta keep doing. You gotta keep doing. You can say, "Oh no, I can't do it. It's not gonna be best," and you can spend, you know, lots of time figuring out: should I use Wix? Should I use Squarespace? Should I use Weebly? Should I use this? Should I use that? And I, you know, lots of times I just want to type, "Just build a goddamn website." do it. Just do it.
Pick
Just
A.
do it.
Just A.
Yes, just go and do it. Because the other thing is that you're also assuming that if you do it, you're going to do it perfectly, and then you're not going to learn anything. And that doesn't happen.
And because every therapist or clinician of any discipline, dietitian, occupational therapist, physiotherapist, they're all experts in web design and copywriting. I know all of them are. And we have this amazing expectation that because I'm an excellent clinician in this discipline, I'm going to have to be an excellent web designer, and I'm going to have to be an excellent copywriter. And I'm just like, no.
I mean, how many times have we gone to the store, right? And you go, ooh, that blouse looks really nice. And then, you go, and sometimes you try it on, and then you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, no way.
Why did I think that was a good idea?
Exactly. Sometimes you don't try it on, you go, oh, it'll be fine. And then you go home and you realize it's got something sticking under the arm, or it doesn't come down, and then you go, ooh, it's not the same thing. You put your website up and you think it looks great, and then you go, ooh. Or you think, you want to work with, women who have experienced postpartum depression. And so you go postpartum depression left, right, and center. And then you realize, people don't really talk like that, right? A lot of women are going saying, after I had my baby, I had postpartum depression, right? It doesn't really happen, right?
They actually walk around with a word bubble that says, I have postpartum.
Yes, right? And then you figure out, so maybe that's part of this learning process, that waiting around to do it properly, not properly, to do it perfectly.
Yeah.
How it can impact you negatively, because you're like, I can't, I gotta learn. So you're not really having it. And then you do it, and then you realize, okay, well, maybe it's not postpartum depression, right? Maybe you talk about baby blues, or maybe you just talk about, feeling excessively tired and you can't do anything all the time, right? And you figure out ways, and then you figure, this is how people actually talk about it, right? And you're going through, and you're not criticizing yourself for not having it right the first time.
Great.
Right? And you saying to yourself, well, that wasn't the best idea, versus I was stupid. That wasn't the best idea. And you continue on. Another way we self-criticize, right? We talk to ourselves so meanly.
Yeah,
and
we are awful to ourselves.
A lot of gentleness and kindness and compassion. Just be like, I thought that was a good idea. I didn't know any better. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the good things, as one of my first supervisors used to say, one of the good things about being a therapist versus being a doctor or a surgeon is that if you make a mistake, somebody probably won't die.
Yeah.
Right? So we can chill out a little bit.
Yeah, we can.
I'm not talking about people that are suicidal. I'm just talking about, if you forget an appointment, and it's probably not going to happen. Versus if you forget a scalpel in somebody's stomach, that's going to be problematic. The other thing, though, is to also realize that, because I think I saw a post somewhere today where they were talking about seeing how many clients they saw, and how, difficulty, and they're having a hard time. And, they used to work in an agency, and I think 35 people or 40 people or whatever it is a week, and they're sort of wondering about trying to do that in private practice, and they're saying, I see 25 people and I'm tired. And I think we also forget that when we work in agencies, there is an enormous amount of support. We've got a receptionist, we've got a janitor, we've got a supervisor that's around the corner. There's an executive director that can, make decisions. Whether we like the decisions or not, there's somebody that's going to make the decision for us.
Yes.
And be like, this is what we're doing now.
Yes.
And then when we're in our own practice by ourselves, we're the janitor, we're the secretary, we're the receptionist, we're the accountant, all of these things in our minds. And then we got to figure out, okay, so the accountant, I need an accountant, but I still have to know that.
Yes, absolutely. You need to know where your numbers are at.
Exactly. And that stuff takes energy and time to do. And I think, that's also one of the ways we can self-sabotage, is that we have to do it all.
Yep.
We have to know it know it all, like intimately know it all. We have to know all the laws, all the rules, all the regulations, versus just, if I don't know this, who does?
Great question.
Who should I be asking for help with this?
Yeah.
Who can support me in this? And surrounding yourself with positive people like you, right?
Oh.
I can get on this and help and help me with this. I should be doing things to help, not just clinically, because that's the other thing that I realize is that there's such an emphasis on sort of clinical preparation. And granted, I don't think one can be overly prepared for clinicals, but I think it comes at the expense of being prepared in terms of how to run and grow a successful business. Whether you just want 5 clients a week, if you want 5 clients a week, there's a way to be like, yes, sorry, I got a 6-month waiting list for 5 clients a week. Or if you want to see 25 clients a week, how do you actually make that happen? And what kinds of things do you need to be doing to engage in that? I think I figured out what the microphone issue was. I'm putting my hands on the side of the computer.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing I think that happens as well, is that,
you've given us so much. We've been going for an hour and you've given us so much today. I can't thank you enough. I am going to call it to a close because I think, you've so.
I talk a lot.
I don't mind. I've been sitting here going, I needed to write that down. So I'm going to enjoy watching this. And I think the helping us see in very practical ways where self-sabotage turns up. It's not some big mythical beast. It's in our head. It's a behavior that starts with thoughts. If we can interrupt those thoughts, if we can just give ourselves permission and surround ourselves with new ways of thinking. And the really big piece that's come out today is that even though you work on your own and you're a solo entrepreneurial clinician, you have surrounded yourself with support. You haven't done this on your own.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's, and you've highlighted where you need support for a clinical and education and money and surrounding yourself with smart people that help you think. So it's not just one size fits all. It's like, I know I need to go and find these things that work for me. And
exactly.
That is probably the best antidote to getting rid of the junk in our head. Yeah. Cool. John, I want to say a massive thank you. I wish you all the success for your period of time out of your clinic in the next couple of months. I'll be looking forward to seeing your progress. And we'll have links to John's website if you want to go check him out. But if you're on social media, every time he says something, it's worth listening to. Bye, everybody. Thank you.